Every day I'm looking for a way to return to the time when everything was easy to learn. Don't know when it started to get so serious, building up an illusion of a world full of trust, moving on when everything's gone.
Hi, and welcome to Run Tall with Tim. I'm Tim. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you tuning in and spending a little time with me here today. On today's video, I'm going to be comparing two max cushion daily trainers. It's the Brooks Glycerin 19 going up against the Saucony Triumph 19.
Confusion in my mind, no way to turn back time. My soul in need of remedy, don't even know the enemy. When I feel out of touch, can't seem to get enough, hiding away from everyone.
Now, these daily trainers are both neutral road shoes that were designed to give you lots of really comfortable miles. So how do you know which one to buy? Well, that's the question that we're going to try to answer today, so stick around. But before I get into it too far, I always like to demonstrate what it looks like to run in the shoes I'm about to review for you. So let's do that, but then when we come back together, I'm going to take a real deep dive and compare these two max cushion daily trainers to try to answer that question, which shoe is right for you.
Whistles blowing down the hall, I still hear it a distant brawl. Whisper fractions from the heart, still believe the words you said. Run around in an empty space, behind every door I see a face. Wet with tears is my pillowcase, I believe the words you said. There's no way to conceal it, I still carry you around. Can you help me conceive it? I'm just waiting to be found. Can you try just a little, fight just a little, cry just a little bit more? I can't sway in the middle, live life in a riddle. I can't steer anymore, anymore, We learned to walk before we crawled. It's in my head, not in my heart. Bouncing thoughts from wall to wall. Will I ever find what I'm looking for? There's no way to conceal it, I still carry you around. Can you help me conceive it? I'm just waiting to be found. Can you try just a little, fight just a little, cry just a little bit more? I can't sway.
Now, these shoes have a lot of similarities, beginning with the cost. They each cost $150 US. The Brooks Glycerin 19, now they come in at 10.1 ounces or 288 grams, and that's for a men's size 9 on my scales. While the Triumph 19 comes in at 10.3 ounces or 293 grams. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the Run Tall family. I'm really glad you're here and you found us on YouTube. Now, I post running shoe reviews and comparisons and shoe battles weekly, but I also like to post other videos related to running as well. So if you enjoy watching running shoe reviews and other videos about running, be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll be notified each time that I upload new content. Now, this video is not intended to be a full review of either shoe, but if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the description below to reviews that I've completed for each one previously. So let's start by examining the upper on each of these, beginning with the Brooks Glycerin 19. Here they have somewhat of a cloth material, and you can see all of those perforations up in the toe box. And they really are pretty much just in the toe box, because if we look at the profile of the shoe, here you can see that those perforations really stop at about the start of the eyelet chain. All of that rest of the things that you can see here, now that's kind of a quilted material that they have to give the upper a little bit more structure. It also helps to reduce a little bit of the stretch because there is a bit of stretch in this material, and you can see how easily it does stretch and how wide those perforations can get when I pull on that material. But that allows it to somewhat give it a little more structure across the midfoot section so that when you use that lace enclosure system to lock yourself into the shoe, you lose a little bit of that stretch across that midfoot section so that you can do that. And then back in the heel, they have a ton of structure back here. Now with the Saucony Triumph 19, completely different story here. This material is a mono-engineered mesh material. There's really not any stretch to it. It's more of a plastic feel. Lots of perforations up in the toe box, but they also have a lot of perforations along the profile of the shoe too that go back quite a bit, quite a ways. Now I was able to get a nice secure lockdown feeling in both of these shoes. Just maybe a little bit more so in the Saucony Triumph 19 than I do in the Brooks Glycerin 19 because you don't have that stretchy material across the midfoot section at all. And then back in the heel counter, they have plenty of structure back there as well. So just a couple of quick notes about the material that they built these uppers out of. The Brooks Glycerin 19, because it's more cloth-like, it does seem to hold in that moisture a lot more than the Saucony Triumph 19 does. So just by way of example, a lot of times when you see that run footage when I do the demonstration portion of these videos, you'll see that I run out on trails and in the mornings and there's a lot of dew on that vegetation. And so the upper material on the Brooks Glycerin 19 does seem to soak up that water a little bit more and it takes longer for it to dry out. Another example is when I was preparing for this video, I took both of these shoes with a some soapy water and a bucket and a scrub brush to try to clean them up here a little bit, make them a little bit more presentable to you. And with the Saucony Triumph 19, this more of a plastic material seemed to shed that water, so these dried out really quickly as opposed to the Brooks Glycerin 19 that took almost a day for this upper to dry out. Looking at the eyelet chain, starting with the Brooks Glycerin 19 first, here you can see that they have a real traditional or classic style here. So no big wow factor, but it does its job. You can see that they did include some extra plastic around the eyelets to give it some more durability, and they did include that extra eyelet in case you want to run with the runner's knot. Now because this material has a bit of stretch to it, I did have to cinch that lace enclosure system up just a little bit more than I did in the Saucony Triumph 19. The trade-off is because there's a little bit more stretch, I did feel like there's a little more give as I move through my gait cycle. Now with the Saucony Triumph 19, here they've got a couple of differences. The first one you're going to notice is this extra loop down here. Now that helps to reduce any kind of bunching that you get up in the toe box. Now the lace enclosure system is kind of cut like an hourglass, so it gives you a bit more of a customized fit or feel to it. And there's no real stretch in this material at all, so it was pretty easy to get locked in and secure across the midfoot section. But again, the trade-off is you feel a little bit more restricted as you move through your gait cycle than I did in the Brooks Glycerin 19. Now the tongue is well padded on each shoe. Beginning with the Brooks Glycerin 19, you can see just how thick it is, and each one does feature a semi-gusset, so they're very similar that way. There's a little bit more padding in the Triumph 19, but both are really comfortable. And again, here you can see that this too features that semi-gusset, and I didn't feel the laces cutting across the top of my midfoot on either shoe. Now the padding around the heel collar and the tab of each of them, I would say it's almost identical. Really not a big difference in the amount of padding that you have here. And then you can see with the Brooks Glycerin 19 that it has a very classic heel counter design there. Found it to be really comfortable. But as we look at the Triumph 19, the only real big difference here is on that heel counter. And here they have a bit of a curve to it, but what that does is it creates a nice solid heel pocket for you to set in. It's very well defined, a little bit more defined in the Triumph 19 than what's in the Brooks Glycerin 19, but I didn't have any heel slippage in either one. And they each have lots of structure. So since I got the Saucony Triumph 19 up on my shoulder already, I'm going to give that heel counter a pinch and give that pinch test that I like to do. And there's just a ton of structure here. But if we look at the Brooks Glycerin 19, pretty much the same story. Got lots of structure back in this heel counter area. Again, I can't really pinch either one of these together, so it gives you a really nice stable feeling in the heel. Didn't have any issues that way in either shoe. So let's take a look at the midsole on each of these, starting with the Brooks Glycerin 19 first. Here you can see that they feature their DNA loft material. They have plenty of it. 31 millimeter stack height in the heel and 21 millimeters up in the forefoot, so they have a 10 millimeter offset. As I flip these over, we'll look at the geometry. Here you have a wide landing platform up in the forefoot of the shoe, and then they feature an hourglass design, so it gets a bit more narrow there in the midfoot section with a rounded heel. And as we look at the profile of the shoe again, you can see that they really don't have much of a heel bevel here at all, with a slight curvature there up in the forefoot of the shoe. We'll compare that with the Saucony Triumph 19. Now here they feature their Power Run Plus midsole foam. They have 32.5 millimeter stack height in the heel and 24.5 up in the forefoot, so they have an 8 millimeter offset. So we flip these over, you can see here that they too have a wide landing platform up in the forefoot. Now they don't come to a point quite as much as what we saw there in the Brooks Glycerin 19, but still a wide landing platform up in the forefoot of the shoe. A bit more of a pronounced hourglass design because it does get a little more narrow in the midfoot section. And then they do have this rounded heel back here. Also, another difference in the features is they have a much deeper groove here in the midfoot section of the shoe than what we saw in the Brooks Glycerin 19. And then as we look at the profile of the shoe, you can see that they have a slightly more of an aggressive heel bevel here. And then they too have a slight curvature up here in the forefoot of the shoe, so nothing that's really aggressive in either one. In terms of the amount of cushion or softness to run in, both of these shoes offer a lot of comfort for you. I don't think you'll be disappointed in either one because they're both really comfortable, and both midsoles offer plenty of energy return to help move you through your gait cycle. So let's just see how soft they are. Using my thumbs to compress that midsole foam, beginning with the Brooks Glycerin 19 first. As I press on that midsole foam, you can see how easily it compresses. It is really soft, fun to run in, keep you comfortable for a lot of miles. And then we'll do the same with the Saucony Triumph 19. And here you can see that that midsole foam compresses nearly the same up in the forefoot of the shoe. So they're both super comfortable to run in. One of the noticeable differences, however, for me in that midsole ride really falls back on the Saucony Triumph 19 in that midfoot back to the heel. They have a much deeper groove here, and it is noticeably different to run in. I do feel like there's a little bit more of a trampoline effect, so you get a bit more energy return as you compress that midsole foam that just kind of pops you forward as you move through your gait cycle. So let's flip these over and we'll take a look at the outsole, see how they're protecting all that soft midsole foam that we just looked at. Beginning with the Brooks Glycerin 19, here you can see that they have plenty of rubber, all the way from the heel through to the toe. They have just a little bit of their exposed DNA Loft midsole foam here on the lateral side of the shoe, but for the most part, it's all covered, so you can expect lots of durability here. They do feature these flex grooves as well to help make it a little bit smoother as you move through your gait cycle. And then if we look at the Saucony Triumph 19, here you can see that they too have plenty of rubber in all of the areas where it would have any kind of ground contact, and that's to protect all of that Power Run Plus midsole foam. They too have some flex grooves up here to make it nice and smooth through your gait cycle. So I don't think that durability is going to be an issue with either shoe. Overall, these shoes cost the same and they weigh pretty much the same. So it comes down to the fit and feel of the upper as well as the ride of the midsole. And for me, I like the Saucony Triumph 19 between these two. I enjoyed the upper material that they used to build it. I like to be able to shed a little bit of the water when I'm out running in the morning, especially with all of that vegetation that has that dew on it. I don't like to have wet feet at the end of the run, and these do a good job of helping keep my feet nice and cool and comfortable when I'm out there. Also, I like the midsole ride. I like that little extra foam that they have. It's not a big difference in terms of the stack height, but there is a little bit more, especially up in the forefoot of the shoe, that helps keep me comfortable as I'm out running. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for making it to the end. I enjoyed making this for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Whistles blowing down the